Welcome to Inside Games, the only gaming news show brave enough to simply not play games that we do not like.
Ooh, Bruce, I don't know about that. That sounds a little too much like woke talk to me. I'm gonna have to pull up Metacritic here. Bruce, I'm rating your opening line a 1 out of 10 and publish.
Come on, I'm getting review bombed already. Ah, yes, that's right. The gamers are at it again, dragging Dragon Age the Veilguard's Metacritic user score into the fade, despite a general player and critical consensus that the game is a crowd pleaser.
Yeah, but not everybody's in that crowd, it turns out, so it's kind of an interesting dynamic. Meanwhile, we do have some hardware news. The next Switch will be fully backwards compatible, and PlayStation 5 Pro reviews are here. How did it turn out? We'll see.
And in a surprise twist, Death Stranding Director's Cut literally just launched on Xbox console after 5 years of PlayStation console exclusivity.
Finally, more people can enjoy the excitement of hauling luggage around an empty landscape. Who even needs Halo anymore? We're done.
We're just joking around Hideo Kojima. We do love video games, obviously, here. So let's get into the news right after a message from BenQ, whose support makes this episode of Inside Games happen.
Today's episode of Inside Games is brought to you by BenQ and their new X3100i gaming projector. This thing basically addresses every issue I've ever had with a projector in the past. As part of this partnership, Bruce and I threw a little backyard gaming sesh with the projector, and we were just both blown away by the size, clarity, and responsiveness of the picture. This is the best looking gaming display I've ever seen. Pretty comfortable saying that. It turns any flat surface into a giant 4K display with rich color and deep, proper black levels. I'm not kidding about that giant thing either. The X3100i looked as crisp as a traditional display, and sometimes even more so. Getting to that crisp, responsive display was an absolute breeze as well, which is another nice change from other projectors I've used. The X3100i has on-unit controls for projection size, up and down placement, and then of course focus, but that makes it super easy to get the image you want, where you want, and in the size you want. The unit software goes above and beyond in both ease of use and configuration, depending on how techy you want to get. Auto game modes automatically click the projector into low latency mode when a console is attached, giving you input lag as low as 4 milliseconds in 1080p and a response time of 0.02 milliseconds, which is virtually imperceptible even for a 60 FPS game. It also comes with preset modes for different types of games, so you have settings for like RPGs or FPSs, for example, to give you some quick options to get you to the picture you want. And if that's not enough, holy moly, does this projector go deep into image tuning. You can tweak the individual hue, saturation, and gain for every RGB CMY value if you really want to. On top of all of that, the X3100i even has a built-in 4K upreser if you want a little more pop and clarity to your 1080p Switch games. So whether you want an outdoors Mario Party, or you just really want to see what your PlayStation 5 Pro can do, or for me at least, if you just want that wow moment, that pop moment, where technology shows you something you've never seen before, consider BenQ's X3100i gaming projector. My mind's already buzzing with the gaming possibilities. So thank you very much for the sponsorship, BenQ. Thanks again, BenQ. Now to get into a story that is all about projection, we have to hear from the projection master himself, Brian Gaar. Brian, tell us what's happening with Dragon Age the Veilguard.
I actually was a projectionist in a movie theater back in the day. Yeah, when they had actual films. So this is perfect. But yes, Dragon Age the Veilguard released recently. It's off to a good start. In its first 24 hours, hit a peak of more than 70,000 concurrent players. That was the most popular Steam launch for any game in BioWare's history. Good news, then a few days later, it peaked at more than 89,000 players on Steam. That was a record for any single-player EA game, so all good. Good launch, strong, good stuff. A much-needed hit for BioWare.
Yeah, and over on Metacritic, it got a decent score of 83 on PS5, which is very respectable. But the user reviews, the user reviews are much different at a 3.8.
And unsurprisingly, you really don't have to rifle through too many of them to find a lot of those reviewers using the word woke, which of course is all an allusion to the backlash the game has received from some players who object to the game's inclusion of LGBTQ plus characters and themes, or even more specifically, the kind of forced and awkward nature with which that representation is in this particular game.
That's right. Some of those user reviews were my best work, honestly. Very proud. We can have dragons, but if they're not straight white men like myself having missionary sex, then no thank you. But yes, obviously review bombing's very common, but Metacritic responded to this one in a statement to Eurogamer. A spokesperson for the parent company called the site a place of belonging for all fans.
They went on to say that Metacritic is a moderation system in place to track violations of our terms of use. Our team reviews each and every report of abuse, including but not limited to racist, sexist, homophobic insults to other users, etc. And if violations occur, the reviews are removed.
That pretty much ensures that everyone skirts the line about as close as they can. Last year, the company told Eurogamer it was evolving its processes and tools to introduce stricter moderation after there were reactions, let's say, to Horizon Forbidden West's DLC, Burning Shores.
Yeah, and discontented folks out there usually frame the divergence between critic reviews and user reviews as the gap between those snooty critics, those progressive critics, and the more populist gamers of the people. Sometimes that is true, but in this case, it's probably closer to a gap between people who have played the game and those who haven't.
Yeah, that sounds about right. That's because over on Steam, the game is actually currently sitting at a mostly positive rating, with, at the time of writing, 73% of reviews rating it positively. That's quite a bit different than Metacritic's user review average of 3.8.
The most obvious difference there is that Steam requires your profile to have at least opened or run the game on Steam before you can review it. So, it's mostly people that have bought or played or have access to the game versus whoever wants to shoot their mouth off on Metacritic. Although, and this is really interesting, nearly all of the, most helpful or top-rated reviews on Steam are negative. So clearly a lot of people are finding use out of those. Now, reading those, they're not quite as critical as cultural issues, more just like the actual content of the game and maybe its tone. So there are people that are unhappy, some with a little more justifiable reasons than others.
It reminds me a little bit of Amazon, because they changed it a while back to where you had to have bought the product before you can review it. But regardless, don't expect any more content from this game. Veilguard's creative director, John Epler, told Rolling Stone there is no DLC coming.
Instead, the report reads, the developer's full attention has now shifted entirely to the next Mass Effect as their current project. And let me tell you, that game's never been woke. Right, guys? You can't have sex with aliens. There's none of that stuff. It's just only straight white people having sex with straight white people.
Freddie Prinze Jr., thick as a brick. Very straight. I don't know. This whole situation's really fascinating because, you do have the people that have signed up for the culture wars and they were really excited for this to be a flop. I showed Bruce this. The term flop chaser is getting thrown around, and I think it's perfectly descriptive of a particular audience. That said, I think there are people who are playing Dragon Age Veilguard, and they, grew up on Dragon Age Origins a million years ago, or maybe played BioWare games when they were a teenager and had different perspectives on art and dialogue and what's considered realistic. So I think that's a pretty legitimate complaint, or reaction rather, is playing this game now and being like, wait a minute, this is for young adult teens in 2024, whereas it's not the same as what was for young adult teens back in 2010. So that reaction's kind of interesting to me, and I hope maybe pushes a lot of people into realizing that games aren't quite as profound, or at least the big budget games, definitely not as profound as some people thought they were.
I mean, I played 15 hours of this game, 18 hours of this game. Really like it. It's really fun. But let me tell you, the writing is BioWare to a T. And I've been saying that for a very long time about games that they have made, like Mass Effect and KOTOR and all other stuff. The writing is not very good. My friend Lauren Sonntag called it writing for the CW, because that's exactly what it is. It's down the line, just barely acceptable. And that's all right. I'm still having fun with the video game, and the writing is CW quality. I'll take it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a video game. I think you said, Bruce, that video game writing, it's always going to be not as good, usually, as a great movie or something. And not everything's going to be Red Dead Redemption. So, I don't know. It's fine. I think you're right. There is a style switch. The art is definitely different. I think people have some good faith disagreements with that. That's fine. And I think there's just, sort of people just wanting to jump on the bandwagon of being mad. But with all that, I'm surprised it's doing well. I feel like that kind of says a lot for it.
Yeah, especially after a bunch of high profile, Star Wars Outlaws did nothing. And I thought the internet at large had just moved on from big brands, but I think maybe they're just really sick of Star Wars. But I think I love big, flashy, stupid games, and that's exactly what this is. So I'm pretty happy. And weirdly, I'm looking forward to Mass Effect now when I wasn't before Veilguard came out.
All right, moving on. Good news for the upcoming Switch 2 or the Super Switch or the Switch U, whatever it's going to be called. Backwards compatibility is going to happen. That comes from Nintendo's president, who says that the upcoming console will be backwards compatible. That's very welcome news to players like myself with giant Switch libraries, because nobody wants to rebuild their whole library in 2024.
Also, have they not even announced this console and they're saying it's backwards compatible? What the heck? Posting on X, Shuntaro Furukawa wrote, "At today's corporate management policy briefing, we announced that Nintendo Switch software will also be playable on the successor to Nintendo Switch."
You could have assumed that, and we even made pretty definite predictions that would be the case. Another easy prediction, Furukawa also said that Nintendo Switch Online will be available on the company's next console, which is set to be revealed at some point by the end of March 2025. Probably right up to the wire on that one, I'm guessing.
That's right around the corner, too. I was just like, oh, that's just a few months away. Meanwhile, Nintendo announced recently it's cutting its profit forecast by 10% due to slowing sales of the OG Switch. And that is because it is really, really old right now. And everybody who wants one probably has one. But it has definitely been an all-time bestseller. They also reported it sold more than 146 million units. That is nuts, and it is closing in on the champ, the PlayStation 2, which sold 155 million. It's probably going to do it.
Man, that's crazy. You think it's going to overtake? Because I've heard that the sales of the OG Switch are just falling off the cliff right now. So when they announce the Switch 2, no one's going to buy the original Switch. So I'm really curious to see if it overtakes PlayStation 2. That'd be crazy.
If they cut the price, though, and keep it going for a couple more years.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah, if they cut the price and it's backwards compatible, I think both of those things kind of combine to... You have the Super Switch sitting there at $450, and then the original Switch at $100. They could probably shift a few more units that way. If they choose to do that, maybe 100 is a little too aggressive for Nintendo, but yeah, it makes sense for the ecosystem to continue for that very reason. Also, in this day and age, we're all digital networks now. You really have to continue that on. I don't think anybody would buy a console now if it meant that they had 0 games on launch day anymore. It just doesn't work that way. So yeah, but that means that the next Switch is gonna be like a Switch. It's got to have the same number of buttons, it's got to have the same number of sticks, it's got to have the same functions. So it'll probably just be, an upgraded Switch with some more weird doohickeys that only Nintendo will use. Heartbeat monitor on the back, I don't know. Sunlight sensor.
One of the buttons will be squishy.
It screams every time you press it for some reason.
All right, now the PlayStation 5 Pro, it's out, reviews are in, and it seems fine. Reviews are good. If you have $700 and really want it, the consensus seems to be go for it.
Yeah, and announcing the release, Sony said it's their most advanced console hardware because obviously, with an upgraded GPU, advanced ray tracing, and PlayStation Spectral Super Resolution.
And reviewers agreed, for the most part, that it's good, but not a quantum leap, not an eye-popping, dick-exploding upgrade, really.
CNET wrote, in scene after scene, I saw improved details with no sacrifice in smoothness, a combination that makes the PS5 Pro the highest performance game console I've ever tested. Yes, it's expensive, but for gamers who want the best experience, it could be worth the price.
Tom's Guide called it, quote, a powerful upgrade to an already excellent console, but it's not an essential buy.
Digital Foundry said that the standard PS5 is still the best choice for most people, but for the core enthusiast looking for the best possible experience, the Pro option is there for you, albeit with a substantial premium. Yeah, you're gonna have to get that. You're gonna have to get that stand. You're gonna have to get that drive.
Breaking news, guys! If you spend a lot of money on something, it generally is good. I don't know if you guys knew that, but the more money you spend on something, usually it's better.
All right, moving right along. It's been a wait for Xbox players who wanted to play Death Stranding, but it is here. The director's cut of the game launched this week on Xbox Series X and S and Windows PC. Nice 50% launch discount, too.
Yeah, I can finally get my Death Stranding achievements. That's what I've been waiting for. This release came almost exactly 5 years after the original PS4 exclusive release, which could mean that Sony's console exclusivity deal for Death Stranding has finally ended. But 5 years was a long time. I hope that was a big check. Holy cow.
That actually makes a lot of sense, too. That's probably when that contract is up. Meanwhile, the game's famed director, Hideo Kojima, announced that his company now has full ownership of the Death Stranding intellectual property, which is by the way, why it's on Xbox now.
Yeah, you can walk all over the place on any platform you want now. In a statement, Kojima thanked all the fans who have stayed connected with us, as well as everyone in the Xbox community who have been patiently waiting. He added that Kojima Productions will continue to connect more and more players around the world, so please stay tuned.
Meanwhile, a sequel is in the works, and if you haven't seen the trailer, you should check it out. It's somehow even more bonkers than Kojima stuff usually is. But again, it'll be a PS5 exclusive to start, scheduled to release next year.
I wonder if that also has that 5 years of exclusivity on that specific game, or if all of the IP is now underneath Kojima so that he can just sort of do what he wants. I'm really curious to see if it's going to be a 1 year window or a 5 year window on PlayStation.
When it was like a big deal when he kind of signed with Sony too, it felt like, after he got let go. So maybe, I don't know, maybe not as long this year.
Yeah, that was an interesting time. Yeah, he got his own production studio off the ground and launched Death Stranding in like 3 years. So he seemed to have a lot of monetary and production help from Sony, which is good. It's what you need to get your studio off the ground. So, but it's a different day and age these days. Exclusivity deals don't seem to be worth it like they used to be. I know Square Enix kind of went out of their way to say, yeah, we're not doing that anymore. It kind of burned us in the end. So hopefully, over the next 10 years, we'll see Kojima's weirdness on every possible platform at the same time. That would be great.
Gosh, I can't wait for that fucking horror game he's making.
Yeah, OD.
I'm so excited.
Whatever the hell that is.
Yeah, I'm so excited for that horror game. I feel like that's going to be something that I'll like a lot more than Death Stranding.
Also, does Sony have the cash anymore, even, to do these kind of deals? Like, do they have the I don't know. All right, let's do a 5-second review. All right, we're doing Balatro. I'm not a gambler, but I get so into this game that, like, if I have a good run going, like, that takes 30 minutes or whatever, and then I inevitably lose, it does make me feel the same, like, crushing defeat that I would imagine if you, like, lost your kid's college money or whatever. I couldn't recommend this game higher. It is, it will just destroy you emotionally.
All right, that's a great game. All right, let's move on to the upcoming games for this week. First up, Farming Simulator 25 invites you to join the rewarding farm life, single-handedly or cooperatively in multiplayer. This farm is your farm, but it's fake. PC, PS5, and Xbox Series X, November 12th.
Except Tetris. Tetris forever, Bruce. 1 million years of Tetris. Tetris Forever celebrates the original genre-inspiring puzzle game that escaped from behind the Iron Curtain onto the world stage and into our cultural consciousness. This package includes more than 15 playable classic games from the series' history, including many being released for the first time outside of Japan. There's some weird ones in there too. Tetris can get funky sometimes. Anyway, Tetris Forever comes to the PC, PS4, PS5, Switch, Xbox One, and Xbox Series consoles on November 12th.
Next up, The Rise of the Golden Idol, the award-winning detective saga, returns in the standalone sequel to The Case of the Golden Idol. So uncover the truth behind 20 strange cases of crime, death, and depravity in the 1970s. Ooh, the world has changed dramatically. The sins of humanity have not. Comes to Android, iOS, PC, PS4, PS5, Switch, Xbox One, and Xbox Series X on November 12th.
Up next, LEGO Horizon Adventures. Join machine hunter Aloy as she leads a colorful crew of heroes on a quest to save the world and learn the secrets of her past. Dive into boundless adventure customized to your heart's content and take on action-packed battles solo or with friends. Comes to PC, PS5, and Switch November 14th.
And last, but certainly not least, the game of the year. It's almost here. Dragon Quest III HD 2D remake. It's a reimagining of the beloved masterpiece. I'm the beloved in that line. And narrative beginning to the Erdrick trilogy, although I wish they wouldn't say that because that's kind of a spoiler, but whatever. Years ago, the great hero Ortega bid farewell to his wife and child as he set off on a quest to defeat the villainous archfiend Baramos. Ortega failed in his quest, and Baramos still threatens the world. But now, on their 16th birthday, Ortega's only child is summoned by the king and entrusted with a mission to take on Ortega's quest, vanquish Baramos, and save the world. Can you do it? Well, guess what?
Brian, this is so long.
You're gonna have a party of allies that you can recruit and aid you on your quest, choose their vocations, appearances, and their voices. This really is long. There's even a brand new vocation exclusive to the remake, the friggin' Monster Wrangler. Let's go. It comes to the PC, PS5, Switch, and the Xbox Series X November 14th.
Yeah, there's going to be a test after this. So if you remember all those names, Ortega and Baramos and all that other garbage,
Good times are here again. We have a lot to be thankful for here at Inside Games. Dragon Quest is back. Death Stranding's on Xbox. And we're lucky enough to have some patrons that support the show directly, which, given our first story, is about as opposite as review bombing as you can get, I think. Review loving, perhaps? Anyway, thank you for adding a little light to the world, our dear and blessed patrons. I have a couple to shout out here. Daniel Higgins, Christian Morgan Anderson, Kyle Heaton, Ryan Cosner, and Monkey Butlers. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks again. I got a handful of patrons to shout out that really honestly have just been not reviewing us for so long. They've probably been supporting us for, at least a couple of years, maybe 2, 3. Evan S. Compton, Baku Bomb, Spirit Bear, Dylan Hiley, and Nick Calderon. Thank you for supporting Inside Games on Patreon.